one's gonna be on Glaze, okay? This is Dixie Belle Glaze. The color I'm going to use today is called Grunge. It is a gray brown. It's important to know that with some glazes, the color in the jars and the color that they go on with is not the color that they end up with. Although this looks super gray, it actually is a brown gray or a gray brown. It's going to dry to a gray brown. When would you use glaze instead of wax, like colored wax? Like you saw how easy the colored wax is, right? Well, you would use glaze when you are going to want to use maybe a top coat on your piece for higher durability, because you don't want to mix glaze and waxes. So you can go over a glazed piece with a top coat. You can even go over a top coat with the glaze. So these two go together like peanut butter and jelly, but glaze and wax do not, okay? So you choose glaze or wax depending on the top coat that you're going to want, okay? Now I gotta tell you right out of the gate, glazing is not my strength. I am a little nervous about this video because I only get one shot and glazing is just not my thing, okay? But I want to introduce it to you. Maybe it'll be your thing. Maybe you'll be a hell of a lot better at it than I am. But at least I'll give you the introduction and you can take it from there, okay? So I'm gonna point the camera down. So this is a cabinet door that I've painted many, many times. So at this point, it does not have a good paint job on it at all, but it's gonna do fine for the demonstration. It's just a cabinet door. Final coat of paint is white or fluff. I didn't even sand it. But here's what you do with glaze, you guys, for the best results. I put on the clear coat first, okay? Yesterday, and let it dry. Put on the clear coat, let it dry, like at least an hour before you glaze. And that helps the glaze be a little bit more workable. So I chose flat because in most kitchen cabinets, most people are going to choose flat, but you might want satin. I put one coat of clear coat in here. And now I'm going to use the Grunge Gray, and I've already shaken it really well. My jar happens to be a little thick because, you know, I probably didn't put the lid on very well, as usual. And I'm going to use a small brush here, and I'm just going to dip the brush into the glaze. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is sort of a shadowing effect in the, what do you call this? The detail, I guess. So I'm brushing on the glaze here in the, I don't know what you call this part, this part. Because I kind of want to create just like a shadowing, antique-y kind of effect here. And so I brushed it on. Now at this point I'm going to take a rag and just kind of wipe around the edges. And kind of blend it. And it's okay if a little bit of it gets into the paint above or below, because we're not trying to create a perfect line. But I'm kind of blending it a little bit so it's not a harsh line, right? Now, that said, that's just too subtle for me, so I'm going to go over it again. The grooves. It goes on really easy, especially if you clear coated it first. And then you see, like for instance down here, I'm just going to sort of blend that a little bit, blend it. And it's okay to me that it's getting elsewhere on the piece, because then it's not going to be so stark white everywhere else. But I do want the emphasis to be in these grooves. So when that dries, there will be more emphasis in those grooves, in like a sort of an antique kind of effect. But I don't want any big globs. And I don't want I want anything that ended up on the flat part to be blended, so I'm just sort of blending that. So at that point you can stop there, let it dry and see what you think. Or you can choose to do more of the cabinet door. For instance, I might want to, a little bit here in the middle. So I think I would actually take my sponge and I think I would dampen it a little just to sort of stretch it out, and just put a little glaze on my sponge and kind of just give it a little bit here. And then maybe turn my sponge over and kind of wipe off the excess. So it's very, very subtle. Then take my rag and wipe around the edges. So it kind of just depends on artistically what you would like to do, right? So now I'm gonna take my towel and kind of gently wipe in the middle. It leaves just like the little tiniest bit of glaze in the center of the cabinet door. And at that point I might say, okay, now I want a little bit more in the grooves again. Just really accentuating those grooves. Remembering that when it dries, it will be more pronounced than it is right now while it's wet. So I'll probably just dab at the little corners to get the pools, being careful not to remove too much of what I've just put in there. Maybe even take the side of my sponge that has very, very little glaze on and just kind of hit the edges to kind of blend it in here, the outer parts. If you want the whole cabinet, having a little bit of that, and then wipe off the excess with the towel. Okay, for me, this is coming along pretty good. For someone who does not claim to be very good with glaze, I like it. So I wish, though, that I could show it to you after it's dry. I will post pictures. And then after it dries, if you're feeling like something isn't right, you can always sand some of it back. You can always add a little bit more. Just kind of work with it, tweak it a little bit at that point. But this definitely adds interest. Now, you might go heavier. You might want a lot of glaze on that piece, right? So you could go a lot heavier. You could go heavier just in the middle, heavier just in the grooves, whatever you want to do. And then you let it dry. Once it's dry, once it's fully dry, and read your product can, okay, then you can add more clear coat to seal in the paint. And this is especially important with kitchen cabinets, that you really seal your paint in very well. I would actually use gator hide on a kitchen cabinet, okay? All right.